Hello class, thank you for coming to my MPA 520 week 4 scenario. In this week's lesson, I've decided to discuss a chemical leak fire, which is a dangerous situation that could happen at any day and any time. Here are some photos of examples. On the right side, we see photos of a chemical leak that happened 2 years ago in the city of Paris involving chemicals that were leaking from a train and almost caught on fire in the city of Paris. In the bottom left-hand side, we will see an incident that occurred in Palestine, Ohio, and in the top left corner, that happened in the 60 freeway in the city of Hacienda Heights. It was a truck that was carrying rocket fuel, which also caught on fire, and they had to evacuate about 2 square miles. So, an incident like this could take place over a time frame of 4 to 5 days. The scenario location would be in the city of Sanford Springs, where there is a active chlorine plant. The city of Sanford Springs has a nighttime population of 18,439 people and 60,000 people during the daytime, as this is an industrial city where people drive into work. Further, just north of the chemical plant, is the unincorporated Los Angeles County community of Los Nietos, where there is a population of 25,540 people. So in this next map, we will see an overhead image of the chemical plant. It is bordered by transportation trains. There are commercial truck and trailers which transport the chemicals, and on the left side we will see the actual containers and processing plant where the chlorine is made. This is a zoomed out photo of the area. We can see once again that it is an industrial area. However, there are many residences and homes in the area as well as schools, hospitals, fire departments, and if you look on the bottom of the photo, you will see the 605 freeway, which is about a mile and a half west of the chemical plant. So there is a lot of infrastructure and a lot of people that would be involved. So during the 30-minute response window, you would have emergency responders arriving on scene, mostly firefighters and police officers. So the most appropriate leadership styles for the initial 30-minute response would be a servant leadership approach and authoritative leadership approach. Now, for the servant leadership, I found an article journal titled "The Rescue Mission of the Wild Boars Soccer Team in Thailand, a case study on leadership." Now, this journal article reviewed all the different types of leadership styles that were displayed at the rescue mission for a soccer team that got trapped in a cave in Thailand, and it discovered that servant leadership was on display by the rescuers. It revealed how the rescuers put their own lives and were selfless, as opposed to serving the community and going into the cave to save those kids. Their purpose was solely as rescuers, and they put everything else second. So it allowed a purpose-driven rescue. The second journal article is participative or directive leadership behaviors for decision making in crisis management teams. So this journal article was interesting because it discussed directive or authoritative leadership, and it flat out said that in incidents like this, directive leadership is just the best way to go for an initial response. You're going to have a lot of chaos. The scene is going to be hectic. Therefore, with directive leadership approach, you need to have a leader who knows what they're doing, who has the training and the experience in these types of matters, so they can make speedier decisions and direct the team in regards of what they need to do and the skills that they need to take the scene under control. So this incident could take 4 to 5 days in my scenario. So on day 3, this incident could still be very active. There could be a continuation of the leak. The chemicals could still be on fire, it would be a very active scene. So for the two types of leadership styles that might want to be considered for employment is situational leadership and charismatic leadership. Now, when it came to situational leadership, I found a journal article, The Challenges of Connecting Situational Leadership and Emotional Intelligence. This journal article discusses that situational leadership could be very, very useful in this type of situation. However, if the leader does not have the emotional intelligence to adapt to the situation that is unfolding, situational leadership does nothing. And this is because a situational leader needs to have the emotional intelligence and maturity to pretty much be willing to analyze the data that's coming in, to be able to change the plan and realize that the plan that they may have had before might not longer be useful. Um, and situational leaderships need to be able to quickly adapt in these changing circumstances and not be defensive when getting criticized or being realized that the plan needs a change. Secondly, when it came to charismatic leadership, I found a journal article, Charismatic Leadership, a study on delivery styles, mood, and performance. This was an interesting journal article because it discussed how, there's a lot of leaders out there with a charismatic leadership um, approach. However, their delivery could be off, and as a result, it might be off putting, it might come off as condescending, and this isn't really a type of effective leadership when you're trying to be charismatic, but the way that you deliver your message isn't quite taken as well by the team. So it simply states that charismatic leaders need to be mindful of the way that they speak, their tone, the perceived mood, because all these little sub characteristics or sub traits will also have an impact on the bigger goal and purpose of being a charismatic leader. So at 3 weeks in, we would be transitioning more into a cleanup effort. And the two styles that would be best applicable would be informal leadership and spiritual leadership. So, under informal leadership, I found the journal article, The Benefits of Informal Leadership. Now, this journal article applies more to a nurse hospital type of setting, but it discusses how informal leadership should be embraced, especially by formal leaders, because although informal leaders don't have the title that formal leaders do, informal leaders are still great coaches. They are able to bring up the morale of their fellow employees, especially the younger employees. And the informal leaders also have a type of following as well. So instead of trying to be intimidated by the informal leaders, formal leaders should actually embrace the informal leaders that work underneath them and push them to even become formal leaders because this is the type of employee that an organization should want to hire or promote through the ranks. As a spiritual leader, it discusses, the journal article that I found was the effect of servant leadership on work engagement, the role of employee resilience, and organizational support. In this article, it discusses how during teams or team settings, the dynamics of the teamwork and the work that is produced really changes under spiritual leadership. Um, as a spiritual leader, you want to figure out what can be done to bring the team together, what are the goals that the team is working towards, and how the spiritual leader can use their talents to help the team meet those goals. So, in this type of situation, during a cleanup situation, the spiritual leader would use their own purpose and their own drive and to help motivate the team to reach their goal as fast as possible. So at the 3 month level, we are looking more towards policy change and regulation to ensure that this type of incident does not occur again. So The two leadership styles that would best be employed for this incident would be strategic leadership and e-leadership. When it comes to strategic leadership, I found a journal article, Government Strategic Leadership in the Era of Bureaucracy Reform. Quite frankly, this states that in order for policy or regulation or MOUs to be changed, you need to have strategic leadership within a managerial level. And this is because strategic leadership is very data driven, it is very science driven, it's just based on fact. Therefore, strategic leadership, or the leaders who embrace this, must be able to look at the data and make changes as necessary. The second type of leadership style is e-leadership, and it discusses how, in the journal article I found, main challenges of e-leadership in municipal administration in the post-pandemic context. It discusses how today's leaders must learn how to use email. They must learn how to use webinars. They must learn how to use Zoom seminars because the pre and post pandemic world are very, very different. Therefore, the days of face to face leadership are starting to fall behind us, and we must embrace this new telework type of leadership where you can lead and still be miles away from your employees. So it gave suggestions for adaptations to leaders to be able to embrace this type of e-leadership approach. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation.